Ron back, and Ron and I are back, I should say, and we are ready for the next question. Ron, how does a
Yes.
person balance when providing a service to people and know they need to charge for the services, but don't feel comfortable charging people even though they need the money?
I think this is a major question that those in service often do. In in addressing this, we need to take into consideration what the kind of service is. Are you providing a service? Are you going out and finding people that you want to serve, or are they coming to you? Um, it depends on how you set things up. I don't believe that a I'm going to call it righteous. I'm going to say a righteous person. I don't I don't see how a righteous person can receive something from somebody but not feel uh, that they can't return something. I mean, it's a give and take sort of life that we're living. And if there's only givers and excuse me, if there's only receivers, then the givers starve to death and the receivers go on about their life and they can receive for a little while uh, and then say, well, I don't have any money for that anymore, so I'm going to move on to something else. But the person who's giving the service, we need to remember that they are part of third dimension. They have need for food. They have need for clothing. They have needs. Why would you not let them have what they need to live in third dimension just like you are? Somebody that's spiritual, well, they should be able to go on and pontificate about how the people in service, they should be able to get, and they're highly evolved, they should be able to get their own money. What makes you think that? Why do you think that? Have you inquired about that process? I always, every person who gives me service, I feel it's an obligation to number one, acknowledge the service and compensate the person appropriately. If I don't have a lot of money and I can only give a little bit, then give a little bit. And if the person who's giving the service says, well, I've got to have this, well, it might be, they should give their service according to the balance of giving and receiving. If they're balanced in their giving and receiving, and the person is capable of this, and you're capable of giving it your service, then there's a meeting of the minds there. There's a meeting of the way things should be. Seek to find that in relationships like this. And yet there are those who will just take and take and take and take and never respond. Well, you're not going to, in your service to them, they're not going to change the way they need to change because they're taking advantage of you. So those aren't the kinds of people you want to be giving your service to. You work things out in the relationships. It's a give and take in a relationship. Always has to be that way. And if there's only a giver and there's or a receiver and there's no givers, then there's could be less and less givers because they can't afford to give without having some compensation. A person is worth their weight. Uh, a person is worth their employment. And you got to stop thinking that people who are highly evolved don't need to have money in third dimension. It's not true. And those people who think that will never be one of those people who give the service appropriately to other people. They'll just take and take and take. So there's some real problems with those who receive inappropriately and don't compensate. And for those who are having problems in giving and nobody's receiving, well, then find better people that will change as a result of your giving. It all depends on what you're giving. If you're giving health and things like this, it's a different story to do to a degree. It's still the same giving and taking in a relationship. So you've got to find a balance between giving and receiving. Giving and receiving is an eternal process. Balancing that is the most important thing that you can do in your life. People will take advantage of you if you're just a giver. Period. That's what they. That's what takers want, is somebody that all give them to. It's like the child always wanting the mother to give, or their mom and dad giving them something instead of them having to take the responsibility to go out and get a job and get a home and all that sort of stuff of their own. And yet they're still critical of their parents because parents are saying, get out of the house and go get something done with your life. It's your life, not our life. Especially when you won't do the dishes and you won't help out, you won't vacuum, you won't make your bed, you won't do your own laundry. Da, 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 da. There's a whole list of things there. Well, giving and receiving is the principles that you need to understand, and there has to be a balance with that. If there is, then there's joy and happiness that just surrounds everybody. I I would like to think that that's helpful. I don't know that my ideas on this are going to be of some value, but giving and receiving is a principle that needs to be balanced. So that's what I have to say about that.
Great. Ron, thank you. And with that, we will be back for the last question.